show I did, it was like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, well, that was the exact opposite with me. After I went on Coast to Coast, nobody called me for a year.
I started with the Pork and Bean Show and started losing friends.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's because you're so good looking and everybody was seeing it and there
They're
was
jealous.
man,
I'm sure it's
can't do
jealousy.
that.
Anyway, I'm finishing up the sandwich, but literally,
Are we recording? I just got a little note.
mhm.
Yeah.
We're not live yet, but
We're
Yeah.
on the record.
sometimes some of the gems come up on the pregame show, and that's why I like to.
Yeah.
But no, literally, when I did Coast to Coast, I did it at Sue's place when I lived in
Yeah.
Canada, and she was across the line. And I went across the line. I forgot my hearing aids, so when I was on the phone, I couldn't hear anything they were saying.
Oh, that'd be hard.
Yeah,
It was nice it being just on the phone. I didn't have to do anything.
I don't like it on the phone. It's hard for me to talk.
Yeah.
Is
Well,
I like to look at people. It's more
yeah.
intimate or whatever. No, it didn't go well at all. And plus when I started singing, people thought I was high or something too. So my show did not go well.
They don't know that you're eternally high.
Were you on Coast to Coast, Brian?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. When was that?
Oh, a couple of years ago.
Oh. If you cut
I won't be on again.
It was a good show.
It was.
We talked about a lot of things, and I guess I'm supposed to be out there talking about the dog man now. So,
Oh yeah.
And with the other things. So she wants me to do another show at some point on bringing everything together, the dog men, the Bigfoot people, and the Star Nation people, and some of the others. So
yeah,
I want to hear somebody talk about the goat head man. I've heard about that for years. I never heard anybody really tell a story about it.
Oh, I never even heard of them.
Nope, I haven't met him yet. I've seen some primal beings that had like the horns that would go back like that. I've seen some of them, but I've never interacted or anything with them.
Okay. Yeah. William and I, we have a picture that has William been on here yet? My research partner, William Lunsford. Has he been on here yet?
Well, funny you mentioned that. He's coming up in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Hey, I didn't know that you guys were research partners. You could have had him on with you. Did you want to invite him on? Come on for today for a bit?
Well, I tried to call him earlier and I couldn't. He didn't answer. So,
or vice versa. If you want to,
we've been doing this for like 3 years now, and Sasquatch has a lot to do with it, the timing and who comes on, and if we get glitches or if we're not supposed to talk about something, the whole Zoom goes funny.
Yeah. That's Robin and I, we've actually had that happen whenever we've been talking on the phone. It was the worst was last summer. I don't remember if I called her, she called me, or whatever it was, and we had to reconnect 3 or 4 times. I mean, we would have good signal, and then all of a sudden it just no phone service.
Yeah.
And I was in a good spot, and she was in a good spot for cell phone service, and it didn't matter. It was you could hear some stuff. I don't know if I don't know. It sounded like we heard some odd noises on the conversation as well.
Oh yeah, that happens.
Yeah.
That actually that's pretty normal.
Yeah. It just blows my mind that somebody would be interested enough in this subject, who could possibly cause interference like that.
They do it themselves.
They do it, yeah.
They do it themselves.
Okay.
Anytime somebody's talking about Sasquatch, they got their antenna open.
Yeah, I was talking with Pete Buffalo Head, a friend of mine, and there was another whole, they were having a conversation on the phone about us.
Ah,
Pete and I were talking.
Well, we're live now. Well, anyway, I don't know how you feel about this, Stephen, but you know, every time we do a show, the Sasquatch people are listening in. Like they're here right now listening in. So they like people talking about them, you know, as long as it's in a positive light, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were with
Makes
me.
sense.
They were with me today when I was doing a snail rescue.
Oh,
I was doing a snail rescue. It
Uh,
was raining today, and these little snails, one of them got stuck in a little pool of water, and I
oh,
picked him out. And I knew the Sasquatch were watching me do that. They like me to do stuff. They like me to do little small things. I don't know why.
Yep.
well, because that's where the heart is, right? If you can do the small
yeah,
little thing, take care of the little things.
I think so.
That's
yeah.
what they like. Hey, so anybody, oh geez, I screwed my intro up. So everybody, my name is Port Cunningham, and I'm here with my distinguished co-host, the world's handsomest man, Frank Olivabeans.
Greetings and
And
greetings, ladies and gentle beans.
gentle beans. I like that. And of course, we're here with Ma Cobbler, or sometimes known as Arla Williams, our sometimes co-host. And you always and we're lucky when you come on because you always add a lot to the show. And we're joined today with Stephen Hill. How you doing, Stephen?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me this evening.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have fun. We'll have a few laughs and get into some good conversations and whatever. And your friend Robin McCRAY is going to join us later.
Okay, that sounds great.
Yeah, she's a busy lady though. I mean, every time I invite her on the show, she's saying, "Oh, as soon as I finish up my other podcast or something." So, I mean, I didn't know there was any other ones than ours actually.
Right.
And I'm sure ours is her favorites. So she says. I'm sure she says that on every podcast, right? I'm going to ask her about that again. So how are you, Stephen? How's life treating you?
Busy, very busy. More busy than I want to be right now. It has actually taken me away from pursuing the hobby that I've grown to enjoy.
How long you been doing it?
I guess I actually, for me, it was probably around 2011, 2012. I developed more interest in it, and through the years, more and more interest. Basically, it started for me in 2009 when I had a sighting. So that was, and I went back and forth for a couple of years as to whether or not that was actually a black bear that I saw, or was that a Bigfoot?
Do you want to describe it? The sighting?
Sure. This was in I want to say January 2009. I know it was still getting dark early in the evening, and I don't know. This was around 5 o'clock. I was coming out. I work in forestry, so I was coming out, and as I slowed down to come down this hill and make a hard right-hand turn, to my left, I could see something moving through the trees, and it crossed the road in front of me. And I thought, I was still moving the whole time, that I could see it moving through the trees and it crossed the road. I was thinking that whenever I get up there to where it crossed, I'll be able to see it as it went up this other hill. And whenever I got up there, what I had seen was gone. So that was kind of a surprise to me, even though I saw how fast it was whenever it was when it crossed the road. So that was
So what?
so I'm sorry, I interrupted you there.
Oh no, that's okay. But so it crossed the road right in front of you, and what exactly did you see, and how far in front of you was it?
I'll say I was moving the whole time that it was running, and then across the road, I was slowly moving toward it. I'll say 15 miles an hour. And so what may have been 100 yards at the beginning, I closed the gap some as it crossed the road. What I saw crossing the road was something that was the smoothest thing I've ever seen in the woods move, and also the fastest thing I've ever seen move. It didn't have a tail. It didn't have a muzzle. And extremely smooth and extremely fast. I'll guarantee you that if what I saw wanted to run down a white-tailed deer, the deer wouldn't have a chance. That's how fast it was.
I heard somebody say one time that just actually last couple of days that his sighting of the Sasquatch was that he put it this way. He said you could put a dinner plate on his head and he was running at full speed and the dinner plate wouldn't even move.
Exactly. That's how smooth it is. That's how smooth that one was that I saw.
Was he on four legs or two?
Yeah,
legs?
it was on 4, the one that I saw. And that was the thing that threw me off, even though I saw it and I'd never seen one before. Things just didn't add up for it being a bear. I mean, if people have seen a bear run, they have I don't know, I guess you would say an ungulate. They have an up and down motion to them. And if they've got some weight on them, they got stuff moving around all over the place. And this was neither of those. So it'd be like me running now. I got stuff moving I don't want moving.
Was it moving by chance with the arms like this in the front?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
More so than walking. Like it was kind of.
You're right. Yeah, it's probably the closest thing I've seen to it was if you look up a video of a chimp running on horse. That's the smoothest thing I've seen to it. Now the big difference is going to be that with a chimp, the back end is a lot lower than the front end. With what I saw, the back end and the front end, the shoulders and the hips were pretty close to level. They may not have been exactly level. What I saw it for about 5 seconds. It was, because through the trees, and then when it crossed the road is when I got the good look at it. But it was closer to being level from front to back.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, geez, I forgot what I was going to say now. Just was on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, go ahead. It'll come back to me.
Well, I'd say that was a blessing. I mean,
yeah.
If they had to have tagged you, because that's sort of like a once in a lifetime kind of a thing, and that's kind of what a tag is. It's like, wow, what was that? Try to fit it into the box. So they do that a lot. I think it's purposeful. Do you looking back on it? Would you call that purposeful? Like it was meant to happen? It was not a coincidence?
I would say it had to, I mean, by the way that, it's for me, it's something that moves, something that's standing still. I have a really difficult time seeing it. Of course, everybody does. Something that's moving is a lot easier for me to see. And the fact that it was moving through the trees, that really caught my attention early on. But with that, I mean, as I said, I was trying to write it off, as a bear sighting in my head for a couple of years, and I knew things just didn't add up for that to be a bear.
Yeah, I know what I was going to say. Do you think it was a juvenile or was it a full-grown Sasquatch you saw?
No, I would say it was a juvenile. The top of its back would probably be about the height of a picnic table. The table part of the picnic table. That would have been about the height of its back on all fours.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because I agree with what Bean says. I think they do tag you, and they're probably, well, I mean, you're doing Sasquatch research and work right now and talking about them. And I think that they tag people that they have an interest in early on. Like I remember I saw something. Well, looking back in retrospect, I realized that that's what was happening to me. But I saw something like that too one time when I was on the highway in one of the big provincial parks in British Columbia. I'm driving along and I saw something running across the road on all fours, and it looked like it was pulling itself like this. And I just, and you know, I always thought at that point that Sasquatch were walking on 2 feet, but I knew what I saw was not a bear, and I couldn't figure out what it was until years later when I was talking to my friend Randy Brisson up here in BC, and he said that he had seen them running across the road in the area where I actually have my clan live on all fours. And that's why I asked you if it was a juvenile, because I think that's usually more of a tendency for the juveniles, I think. But
yeah, to me, you know, that right there would be the ideal sighting. That's the sighting that, you know, people who've done research for years and haven't seen one, that's the sighting that they hope to have, is, you know, from a vehicle.
yeah. So what's your take on that, Arla, as far as the walking on all or running on all fours?
Well,
is that a juvenile trait? And
pretty much. I mean, the adults can, you know, if they choose to. You know, if you look at their body structure, I mean, that's like the ideal thing. When I was a kid, I was forever running around on my feet and hands because I thought it was just so cool. And, you know, and you can get a good speed if you've got that motion. And, you know, the juveniles, oh my gosh, they're going to do just about anything to get your attention. And I do believe that the juveniles are used so many times to get our attention. They're the ones that are out there doing this and, you know, letting people see them. So, yeah, they saw you coming.
Oh yeah. I like the fact you described them as running like this, because that's exactly what I saw. And in retrospect, when I look back at it, I'm thinking that had to be a Sasquatch.
Yeah.
A young one, but it was a young one for sure. How come your head's all cut off, Robin?
I know what it's doing. I'm trying to figure this out. It's like cutting my head off. Hang on, I'm going to try something else.
Hey, Brian, how long ago was that when you had your first sighting like that? How long ago?
That was 2009, so I guess it'd be 14 years now.
How about Brian?
Everything started for me in 2012, and this happened at least 10 years. I saw that at least 10 years before that, maybe 15. So
let me try that.
That's better. I think you got to get a little closer to the camera.
Is that better?
Device. Yeah, you look good. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
You don't look Frank Oliver Beans good, but you know he's the world's handsomest man. But you look. No, none of us do. But you look pretty good for who you are.
You. I appreciate that. Hey, Stephen. Hi, Arla.
Hey.
How you guys doing?
Oh, we're good. We're good.
Good.
So what happened after that, Stephen? You I guess you started thinking about the subject, and what developed after that for you?
Well, like I said, for me, I went back and forth for about 2 years on it as to questioning what I'd seen, and something that really. I started listening Coast to Coast. Of course, I listened to Coast AM, and George Knapp. He'd started interviewing Melba Ketchum, and with the project that she got involved with, and that right there kind of helped me come to terms with it. And then around 2012, I started putting out game cameras, not for them, but for deer. For the deer lease that I was on, and I actually got a couple of pictures. One of them was just red eyes, where I was in the spot where I had the camera out. It was actually in a pasture, or what used to be pasture land. Used to be hayfield, and they've let it grow up now. But at that time, you could see a long ways across that pasture. And whenever the deer came in on that one particular night, well, I got the picture of the deer, 2 or 3 deer there, and back behind them were these 2 red eyes that were way up in the air, and they were big. And I thought, wow, I don't think that's an owl because they weren't blurry, they weren't moving. So, and then later on, I got one of these in a different area, actually. That I guess it all kind of ties together. But then I had this ghostly looking picture of a humanoid looking figure that had a beard, big, and there were actually coons where I had the feed put out. They were robbing me blind. There were some interesting pictures of the coons, even getting up on top of the feeder, scooping the corn out to the other coons on the ground. But during one of those pictures where the coons had set the camera off, there was that ghostly looking picture. And what it looked like was a Bigfoot. But it was, I don't know, kind of ghostly looking. So that was white, And I thought, yeah, there's something more to this. So that was the start of what drew me in. It really convinced me that I needed to continue with it.
So then what happened? So then you got really serious.
Well, I watched the same show that I figure a lot of people did. I hope my dogs are not too loud. I'm not sure what they're barking at, but there are. The Finding Bigfoot show, I watched that, and they were doing vocals and stuff like that. So I had heard some things, and I had started doing vocals. I would go out, early in the morning, nobody around, and I would do some vocals. And I quit doing that in August of 2015. I had something answered me from closer than what I was comfortable with. So I quit doing calls for 2 years. I was doing it by myself. Yeah, I did. I was 6 miles from the closest town. And the closest town has a population of like 150, maybe.
Yeah. What were you doing? A whoops or howls, or what were you like? Whoop, like that?
Basically, I'd taken a whoop and I had exaggerated it and stretched it on out. And I've got especially at that time, I had a really good set of lungs, and so I could project the sound on out where it would be heard from pretty good ways off. The bad thing about this was it wasn't a long ways off.
And did they give you the exact same call back?
Yes.
But better than you.
Oh yeah, a lot better than me and a lot louder than me.
And what was your feeling on that? Like, shut up, or like, don't like this, or what would?
I shut up. I got in the machine. I turned the light. This was 4:30 in the morning. So I'm 6 miles. I'm 6 miles from the closest town. I turned by myself. It's 4:30 in the morning. I got in my machine. I turned the lights on, and I started panning the tree line with the lights on the machine, thinking, "What did I just say to them?" That was my reaction. Was like, "Oh no, I don't know what I said."
Yeah, I don't do the calls for that reason. I could be telling them and flipping them off for all I know.
I quit doing them. I was doing like call, for the first year or so, and then I just realized, well, they don't normally answer. I mean, they did a couple times that there was a purpose behind it.
Right.
Like if there was some kind of heart sentiment from me and I was expressing something like that, they might answer, but generally they wouldn't. And then I also realized that, like they know you're there. You don't have to announce yourself. They already know you're there before you even go there. As a matter of fact, I don't know how you feel on that, but they know what you're going to do before you even do it, in my opinion.
Well, I've been talking to Robin for a while, so it's she's in the
Yeah, I love talking.
Oh, so Oh, so you're completely off your rocker.
Yeah, I'm no longer a well-adjusted person.
You
Yeah, he's
see
part
what
of
you
my tribe now.
see what you do? You see what you do, Robin? Look at
No.
me.
Oh, I know.
I-
I make everybody abnormal.
So what is it with you? Every time I ask you on the show, you're just wrapping up another show. Do you do one like every night? You're busy.
Oh my God, no. Like, here's the thing. Like, in my mind, nobody has any clue who I am. That's where my mindset is at. And
You're
so,
wrong.
yeah. But that's how I think. And so then things pop up at the last minute and I don't even, I don't expect to do them. And I'm supposed to do a show tomorrow night and they wanted to do an interview with me tonight just to kind of like, they knew a little bit about me or whatever. I mean, they already did because she watches all my videos and, watched the movie and everything. And so that's what I was doing. And I had my alarm set because I wanted to watch while Steven was on. And
Yeah.
I thought that the other day, I thought, well, I wonder who Brian's going to pull on, along with it, because you always bring people up to get on the show with the guests, but I hadn't heard from you, so I didn't know it was me. And so I just started with that when you sent me the link and I went, oh my God. So I told her I'm going to call her back after, we got some done and then we'll finish it up tonight after I get off of here. But
All right. You dissed your other interview
No,
in the middle
actually,
just to
she
be
did.
on
She
Pork
was-
and Beans.
yeah, she was so kind. I said to her, because she was going to call me tonight and she was doing some stuff. And I said, okay, take your time. I'm going to be here all night. And then I messaged her and I said, hey, I didn't know it, but I'm going to be on Pork and Beans. So can we do this in a few minutes? So she called right away. And I said, I told Brian I'd be there in about 30 minutes. And she said, oh, I need you for more than 30 minutes. And she said, you just go ahead, do what you got to do. I'm going to be up late tonight and call me after. So she was incredibly kind, which I appreciate it because I was like, I don't like to let anybody down. And of course I want to be on here for Steven and you guys. So it worked out very well. So I'll call her when I get.
Now here's the big question. Did she know who Pork and Beans was?
Yeah. I mean,
She did.
Thanks. Who wouldn't?
Wow, we're that popular?
Yes, of course.
She actually knew who we were.
Yeah.
Can you divulge the name or is that secret?
I will be on Bettina Moss's show tomorrow night.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we've had her on the show.
She's
Yeah.
lovely. It's the first time I've ever talked to her. And I've only been on, like I said, I only talked to her for a few minutes, but she seemed lovely. So we'll see. I'm excited about
I think
it. So
she's
she was
doing a
very
really
kind.
good job. She actually has more guests and more, I guess, people in her groups than we do. So people
Well,
really
she was
like
very
her.
warm and welcoming, just very, very kind. So I'm very excited about it. But yeah, I go in streaks where like nobody cares what I do. And then all of a sudden everybody will call me at one time. So it goes up and down. It
Yeah.
literally bounces around. And then
Yeah.
next weekend, Stephen, William, me, Duke, Blaine, and Christy, we're going to have a ball in Nebraska.
Yeah.
Nebraska
present-
Conference.
Are
60 years-
you presenting there, Stephen?
Yes.
So what are you going to be talking about at the conference? You want to give us a primer or what's your topic going to be?
Well, since it's going to be the Legend of Boggy Creek themed, one of the things I did want to discuss was not everybody who had a sighting of the Falcon Monster, as it's called, was met with open arms. As a matter of fact, I first became friends with William in 1988. We played on the same softball team together. And the first time I went Bigfoot, and I didn't even know that we were Bigfooting. I thought it was a hot day. I thought we're just going to the river. We're just going to cool off in the river, and that's what we did. little did I know.
Well, hold on a second. So he didn't tell you were going. He thought maybe you wouldn't go. Is that how it worked, or?
Yeah, he never did tell me that he was into Bigfoot. He never told me about sighting or anything else. And yeah, well, I mean, we went in my truck. So I was. And funny enough, the sighting that I told you about, I mean, I had that sighting within 5 miles of where we actually went that day. But it was 11 years later. So,
The sighting was 11 years later.
Yeah, my sighting was 11 years later, but it was within 5 miles of where we went that day in 1988.
Uh,
Just for
okay, so
irony.
how did you know it was for a Bigfoot thing or whatever? Did he talk about it when you were there, or?
No, he never. The whole time back then, William never mentioned Bigfoot at all to me. What had happened? He'd had a pretty traumatic encounter in '77, and I don't want to steal his thunder on that, but I mean he does a really great job of recounting the story. But he'd been made fun of so much by friends and family and everybody else that he told the story to, that by the time I'd met him, 10 or 11 years later, he didn't talk about it. That's how this was, and I want to go ahead and go with that. It's with where I live at in Southwest Arkansas, our news comes out of Shreveport, Louisiana, which is the closest. Shreveport is the closest big city or big town that we have, and there would occasionally, the local news channel, they would interview somebody who claimed that they'd seen something crossing Highway 71 in between Falk and Doddridge. And you could always tell whoever got stuck with that assignment, they were never really all that thrilled about it. Great. I get to go interview the person that said they saw the Falk monster. It's kind of the attitude. So
now, I think we know better now, or whatever, but it's not actually a Falk monster. It's probably a group of Sasquatch that were there, right? They weren't seeing just the same one all the time, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the funny thing. I mean, just to give you an example of how things would go for us. I mean, I've seen eye shine. I've seen eye shine several times down there. As a matter of fact, the first time William and I, we kind of lost contact in between that time. I mean, he'd started a family, and I'm younger than William, so I had other interests and things like that. And you can imagine.
I was just something came to my mind, but I won't say it.
And so we had kind of lost contact, and it wasn't until 2018 that I was after my second sighting, I decided, well, that's it. I'm done with doing this by myself. I'm going to reach out, and I want to meet other people who know something about this. Find out how other people do it. And I went to looking on Facebook, in the Facebook groups, the Bigfoot groups, and I finally ran across William. It's kind of really, this is the guy that I know, and he never told me anything about it. Here he is on the Bigfoot group. So that's how I actually found out that he was into the subject. All those years later, like 20 years later,
Wow.
Yeah, William and Stephen paired up, and then you've got Daniel in there now too.
Mm-hmm.
And Daniel's from Alaska. He's wonderful. So last time William and Daniel went out, they had me on video chat through the whole thing. So I got to go out in the woods with them, which was a blast.
Awesome. So how long is the folk monster legend, which isn't a legend, but how long has the so-called legend been going on?
I know that there were sightings in the early 1900s, around the turn of the 1900s into it. But there are reports from Arkansas that go back into the 1830s, I think, 1820s or 1830s.
All in the same area.
Yeah, well, just in the state in general. Actually, the closest sighting that I know of to the Falk area is an area that William and I research now. And there was a story there that came out from the 1850s.
Oh, wow.
And they're still in the same area.
Yeah.
Those are the ones, Robin, that I've told you about. They act a little bit different from the from the ones that are in what we call the ground zero area. And the funny thing is, I mean, they're within 10, 12 miles of each other as the crow flies.
So when you say act different, what do you mean? What's different about their behavior?
William, I think William may have caught a glimpse of one. down there, but I've never laid eyes on one down there. I mean, I've recorded vocals. They do more tree knocks than any place I've ever been. They've responded to vocals more often in that area than they do in other places. Just like the ones that they're from the Ground Zero area. That's actually not that far away from where I live. They're pretty close, actually. I usually refer to them as the neighbors. To give you an idea.
Well, that means that you got a good feeling and you respect them when you call. I like that when you call them the neighbors, or
Yeah.
you know.
Yep.
Yeah. Isn't it funny though? You know, like all the people always say, like the legend of Boggy Creek or the folk monster, or you know, other ones, whatever. Always like it's like one creature. You know? I always find that kind of funny.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, in December of 2018, that's Christmas was on a Tuesday that year. So I got a hold of William, and we went out on a Friday night, and we recorded eye shine video, and we have a still from that right there where you can actually see the juvenile. There were 3 sets of eyes in the field, and that was in the area that we're in now, that we call our Ground Zero area. And so on Sunday night, I told William, I said, we need to go out in the Falk area. So the only time I've ever seen one through a thermal was down there. And we go on to the end of a dead end road, it's through the woods. It's not very far from Highway 71. And what we did, we found about a 14 or 15 inch track in the middle of a gravel road that night. The moon was out. And I could see the face of one through the FLIR.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I actually saw the thing in the FLIR running away on all fours, believe it or not. So that's the first 2 times I ever actually seen them move, and they were both on all fours. But the funny thing about that is we were in one spot, and then we drove to a different area called Thornton's Wells, which if you've ever watched the Finding Bigfoot shows, one of the times when they went to Falk, Bobo watched the Legend of Boggy Creek on the oil tanks that are at Thornton's Wells. Well, we were there. My daughter, she was 15 at the time, and keep in mind, this was December 23rd, and she had started going Bigfooting with me in October of that year. And that night, after we'd been to the first spot, and I'd actually saw that one through the thermal, we went to Thornton's Wells, which would have been around 11:30 or so. And my daughter actually got to see one through a thermal right across the water on Mercer, down there at the boat ramp. And that was, she's told me several times since then, Dad, I want to wait a while before I see another one. But we think the one that she saw is the one that's notorious for, if you go down there and you do a wood knock, he'll answer it one time, and that's it. No more knocks. So that's the one we call one knock.
That's cute.
So
Yeah.
but I mean that was two different Bigfoot in 2 different spots on one night down there in the Falk area. So
It's funny how you mentioned, and they all kind of act different in different areas or whatever. Like I know in Georgia and around where Arla is or whatever, when they have the campouts or whatever, they'll come right out and you'll see them, and they're much more interactive. My clan is RE, and then they don't do that as much, and they all kind of act different in different areas.
I think it's a cultural thing. It's just, they're all a type of people. They're all different. They all have their own likes and dislikes. Now, like the ones in Michigan in the one area I was at, they would walk up to the house. They were walking around the yard uncloaked. I mean, they were busy. They were right there all the time. But then I moved to a different location, and they were a little bit quieter, where they didn't want you to see them as much. But then as soon as, they didn't think you were looking, they were up looking in the windows at you and knocking on the walls and everything else. Here, here, as soon as it gets dusk, it's like a free for all. They're all running all over the place.
Yep.
Sounds like Arla's place.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
they're all a type of people. It's all different. It's like people in Michigan behave different than the people here in South Carolina. And, I mean, it's just a variation, but they're all individuals. There's no two that are alike.
And a whole
Yeah.
lot of it has to do with your energy and how comfortable
Mhm.
they are with that. Because I know I've been all over the United States, I've been into British Columbia, and I've never had a problem with them not coming up where I could see them. And,
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
physically around. And so a lot of it is us, and like you say, some areas they're not as open. Some areas you don't see as much eye shine. I know there was one place in Georgia where I used to have a gathering every year. We had 18 people that one gathering. And we were walking at night, just doing a night walk on one of the trails that this friend of mine, Keith, was always on. It was kind of his area. And all 18 of us stood there for over 30 minutes watching multiple ones do eye shine.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, here's this one. Well, there goes another one. And it's at the same time. So, it's not this one running over there and running back. There were probably 10 or 12 of them
Yeah.
doing that. And when we walked back to our vehicles to get in, they followed us and skirted along the trail, and still you would see eye shine off and on.
Mhm.
So I've never been to an area where it is that much, but that's also the area where they walk right through camp. They come to your tent. They do all kinds of things at night. One year, one lady stood up and she went, "Oh my God, there's a Bigfoot." you know, it it was the place, but it was also the group of people because everybody there was in their heart. No, not all of
Yeah.
them knew everything, but they were. So
Yeah.
I've never been down around Falk. I know where it's at, and I've driven through there, but I've never been out in the woods there. I've been all over southeastern Oklahoma, pretty much. But I've always wanted to go out to Falk in the woods, but maybe one of
Well,
these days.
I think you got an invitation.
Yeah,
Stephen will welcome me down there, I'm sure.
sure do.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
Have
Yeah.
we're gonna have
I don't know, like,
Keith
yeah, my clan seems to be like, they're a teaching clan. They don't fool around as much as, I mean, they do have fun too, but they
Except
seem like
for
they,
Bud Nori.
yeah, well, yeah. I mean, they got a great sense of humor, but they don't seem to do stuff just for no reason. That, at least not with me. It's always a lesson or something involved with them. But
Yeah,
they're all different. They're all different.
they are. Like
I have a
it's all
question.
different kinds of
If you've been
activity.
to Folk before, do they have like signs for Bigfoot or little museums or anything like that?
The Robert Denny, he has the store, the Monster Mart, and he has an area there that is kind of dedicated to the film and tracks and different things, So when people go into it, I don't know if I still have a picture that I could send you or not, but I can try to send you a picture sometime of it where he's got the Bigfoot on top of the building. The arms are out, and you'd see
Yeah.
the whole deal. It's pretty cool.
The reason
got Keith coming.
reason I was saying that is you were talking about how, back in the early '90s and all that nobody ever talked about it. It was like a big joke and all that. And now here it is in the 2000s, and And you know, they got stores and they got a big statue in the middle of town on top of a roof.
Yep.
Yeah, that's progress, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You know, it's compared to what it was, you know, for get people like William, you know, who'd had sightings and they were made fun of and they just quit talking about it. Which I mean, William, he's one of several. You know, it's just right here in the town that I'm from. It's that was one of the things that I discovered about it. You know, was I told you that I had the picture of the eye shine, and it was I think a year, 2 years before that, where we don't get snow very often, so it was the year that we had two snows. And the guys, well, the guy I'd known him all my life. Went to school with this kid, and his dogs were just raising Cain one night, and he went out the next day to look around to see if he could see any evidence of what it was. He was expecting, you know, some kind of a varmint or something had been bugging his dogs, and he found a 15-inch track.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So in the snow, and that's one of only two reports from the county that I live in.
Yeah. What's the
I could add a lot more.
Oh, well, go ahead if you want.
No, I'm just saying to the official report, you know, that you're going to find on the BFRO website.
Yeah.
There's only two, but I guarantee you I could add a lot more to
Yeah.
that.
So I take it I'm picking up that if you're calling them the neighbors, you don't consider them to be monsters. So do a lot of the people in the area that know about them consider them like that, or people understand them on a different kind of level generally?
For the most part, you know, I know a few people who've had sightings, and I don't know of anyone in this particular area who's actually had an aggressive encounter. I haven't. I've been scared, but you know, what I've come to realize is it was just me being scared. It wasn't because anything aggressive had been done to me.
Right.
Probably the closest thing that I know of to an aggressive encounter was I'm not sure if this probably would have happened in the 70s. I'm guessing maybe the 60s or the 70s. It was a guy. It's actually my son-in-law's great grandfather is who this was, and he was cutting logs, and he had just cut a tree down. And when he raised up, when he looked up, he saw there was a Bigfoot not too far from him staring at him. And he was about 6 foot tall, and the creature that he saw was about 6.5 foot. And they basically just they had a staring contest there for a little bit, and he still had the chainsaw running. And the Bigfoot finally just turned around and walked away, is what happened. But they had a stare down for a little while. You know, and when he was asked, you know, what were you going to do if it came towards you? He said, well, I was just going to stick it with a saw. That was the only thing he could think of, you know, that he would do to defend himself. But it didn't throw anything at him. It didn't scream or yell at him or anything like that. It just, I guess it just wanted to let him know that he was disgusted, that he was disturbing his nap or something. And it just walked away.
But did he interpret that as an aggressive situation? Because I don't see that as that.
No, I don't think he did. You know, I mean, nothing happened. They stared at each other, and it walked off. And he was another example of somebody who he'd started telling people that story, and he just got made fun of so much that he quit telling it. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's happened quite a bit. I mean, people are a little bit more open about it now, but I know other eyewitnesses who've seen it and they've never gone public with it. The only reason they talked to me about it is because I asked them about it, because I heard it from somebody else. And another one was a guy who saw one. It was in a river. There's a natural ford on this river, and the water was too deep for him to drive his truck across the ford on the river. And he wanted to get to his place, so he parked his truck and he walked up the riverbank, and he saw somebody standing in the middle of the river. And he thought, well, that's somebody out there fishing. keep in mind that it was too deep. The water was too deep for him to drive his truck across the river. And the guy that he saw standing in the middle of the river, the water came up to about mid-thigh.
Wow.
And when he first saw him, he thought, man, that's a big fella. And then when the Bigfoot realized that he was there, the way he described it, he said it bounded 3 times to get from the middle of the river to the bank, and it went straight up the bank of the river, which is like this on this particular river. It went up the bank and was gone. Later, when he had his son go out there for a recreation to try to convince himself of what he'd seen, his son put on hip waders, and I think the water may have been a little bit lower. But he said when his son went out there to stand in the spot where he had seen that, he said there was absolutely no comparison in size.
Yeah,
You know,
that's interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think more often
Go
than
ahead,
not,
Robin.
I think more often than not, given the opportunity, they're just going to walk away.
right.
I mean, not that there aren't bad ones, there absolutely are. Okay.
Mhm.
Just like we have bad people, they do as well. But I think predominantly there's more that would just as soon walk away, not have that bad interaction. And the truth is, if they want you gone, there is nothing you or anybody else is going to be able to do to stop them. So
No.
the fact that they do walk away, or that other, our type of people can walk away from it, says right there that they are not this big terrible thing that's out to kill everybody. Are there some that are? Yeah, but we also have murderers too.
Right. And with those types, for the most part, for the majority of the time, I really don't think those are Bigfoot. I think the Bigfoot are probably wrongly accused in a lot of cases, when
Yeah,
it's actually something else,
be a
something
guggler.
like a gut play or something like that.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the missing 411. There's a
Mhm.
lot of not coming right out saying it, but kind of innuendo or hints that it could be Sasquatch or whatever. But I don't think in most cases it is.
Well,
Right.
there has
Hardly any
been a
of them.
few. I will say that there has been a few in the
Could be, of course,
411 that were, but not the amount that people think. There are worse
Yeah.
things out there in the woods than a Sasquatch. Let me tell you.
Yeah, like people.
Yeah, I would rather be out in the woods with 100 Sasquatch than I would 10 people that I don't know.
Absolutely.
I'd say
Absolutely.
the woods are a lot safer than Chicago.
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely.
You know what I mean? It was like human beings killing human beings is like
Well, in
off the
Detroit, it's the
chart.
same way.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's just too rare to hear some farmer died or some hunter died because of a Sasquatch encounter. It's just to me, it's just I just don't see it as
No.
even being worth mentioning
Yeah,
No.
compared to what we've done. I mean, the United States
I
of
agree.
America.
We are far worse.
The United States of America since 9/11 has killed something like 1.3 million people who had no clue. None of them even knew where America was. And then we made 17 million people refugees. And then to me, the irony of it is when you come to talk about aliens or Sasquatch or the dog man, and then it's like that's this big terrible thing, and when in reality, that doesn't even reach the radar. You know what I mean? It's not even on a bell curve.
Mm-mm.
So I don't know. We got this fixation with death and fear and monsters and stuff.
Yeah.
But in reality, we're the only monsters on this planet.
Yeah. We got to look in the
That's-
mirror.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
100%.
that's why,
Yeah.
I've always said if humans were not on the earth, there would be no demons here.
No, there would
And
be peace.
the reason I say that is because humans create those demons.
Yeah.
They are the ones that give demons life. And I just always tell people, hey, if we create them, then we can uncreate them. And I see a lot of that happening now as people are realizing just how powerful our thoughts are and where they'll take us. And that's one of the main teachings that Kashima and some of the other Sasquatch have tried to get through so many people's minds is we have that ability to create that demon, and we create them in many different ways. We create them with our thoughts of misunderstanding something. Well, that's got to be a demon because I don't understand what it is and it looks really scary to me. And so yeah, if it wasn't for us humans, why would there be demons here?
We also got to understand that we're powerful enough to the demons that we create and whatever, that we can also get rid of them just with positive thought and you know, with our energy and stuff like that. So that there's the counterpoint to that. So obviously, Robin
Beans is sort of like an apologist for the Sasquatch. You know, we stand up for the Sasquatch. But really, that's what we're actually doing.
Yeah.
We're standing up for them, saying they're not monsters. They're in another category, but it's not monsters, and they're not evil.
Yeah.
You know, they're more or less very highly intelligent and spiritually advanced human types.
Oh, I agree.
When you felt the love of a Sasquatch, when you have a connection where they are sending you love and teachings and just that kind of stuff, it is so beautiful that you couldn't even imagine calling them monsters. I mean, it's beyond what, I mean, it's ridiculous, but I guess you'd have to feel it. It's kind of like you can't describe love unless you felt it. So
yeah.
So Robin and Stephen, so I'm going to assume that Stephen got a hold of you, Robin, to explain some things or to get some answers for some of his experiences or whatever. Is that how you guys hooked up or whatever? Or do you have any? Can you talk about something along those lines, or is that true?
Yeah, no, Stephen, you go.
Well, Duke was the one that actually gave me his number and got us connected. You know, and I've had some odd things happen, no doubt. You know, it's just like an audio, that I recorded a couple years ago. I think it was a couple years ago, man. I'm not sure how long ago. It's from the area where where I haven't been able to see one yet. So, and just to give you an idea, I was at home and I was thinking about going and doing an audio recorder drop, and as I sat at home and I thought, I'll go do it tomorrow night. I just this kind of this nagging feeling, you know, no, go do it tonight. Go do it tonight. And so anyway, I went ahead and I did it. It was probably about 9:30 when I finally got out there to the area where I dropped the audio off at. And about 6 hours and 40 minutes into that audio recording, it sounded like the gates of the underworld opened up.
Whoa.
Yeah. And it was when I let my wife listen to the audio recorder, she got chill bumps. It was, now don't get me wrong, there's coyotes in it, but there's some other stuff in there that I'm pretty sure they're not coyotes.
So this is less than 60 miles or so from your house, or like 40 miles or
no, this is like 8 miles from my house.
Oh yeah, okay. So here you're hearing, and your wife's hearing this, and it's like that's in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's but I mean some things like that, you know. I've had I don't know what I have. I don't remember.
Talk about some of the strange stuff, because I mean, you know, we've had a lot of different experiences here, so nothing's probably too far out or what we haven't heard before. So you're free to talk about anything you want here. I mean,
well, I think when Duke introduced us too, Duke has this way of bringing people together. It's like a gift he has. And Stephen didn't need help from me. I mean, let's be clear. He knows what he's doing. He's been doing it a long time. But I think all of us at some point in time just want to speak to somebody else that's going through the same things we're going through. Yeah. So that you have somebody that can verify what you already know is going on. You know, you don't need help. You just need that sounding board to say, listen, you don't need to be in an institution. This is real. You know what I mean? And I kind of felt like that was the thing with Stephen, because he didn't need help. Stephen has got it going on. He knows what he's doing. But it was helpful, I think, to connect with somebody else that deals with all the craziness. So I just wanted to put that out there, because I don't want anybody to think that, you know, like, I do get a lot of people that need help, and I'm more than happy to do that. Stephen wasn't one of them. Stephen was just somebody Duke and put together with myself, because we were both experiencing a lot of the craziness. And that way Stephen had somebody that he could share it with, that could sympathize with it, and we could bounce ideas off of each other as to what was going on.
Right. Yeah. See, that's I think part of, not long after we connected, you know, that's when I started seeing the other stuff start showing up actually in the sky. In the sky. So, yeah, and I went through it, and for some reason, I mean, it's kind of that's all kind of gone away now here lately. But there was a time I got real sick, was hospitalized. You know, it was during the time of the COVID, and you know, that's I don't know. I'm just not still uncertain as to what some of that stuff was. I know. I do have one video I know that I've shared with Robin, and I can't tell you for sure exactly what it is that I've got recorded, but it's
well, tell us about it. Tell us about it. Describe it. What were you experiencing?
It's just basically just these big lights. I don't know. I would describe it as a light. I mean, there's a circle, you know, that would that actually move over the property, you know, pretty high up a lot of times. One of the last times that I saw one, I was probably not in. I wasn't in a normal frame of mind. I was a little bit angry over something, and this, I don't know. It looks like a giant orb. Is basically what they look like. Whether it's a craft or it's something else, I don't know.
How low was it?
Lower than what the jets fly.
Okay.
And the last one was even lower, but I honestly don't know how high up they were. And but like I said, in the last time that I saw one, I wasn't in the right frame of mind. I was a little bit angry over something. And whenever that last one flew over it, the size that it was like a flash of light that increased the size of it like 50 times.
Whoa.
It gave me a headache. I went to bed with a headache. I woke up with a headache the next morning.
Whoa. It powered up.
Yeah. And it made me mad. I mean, because I got the headache just like that. So I come inside, and I go back outside, and I'm like, I have good sense. I'm talking to the sky, telling him, come back here and confront me. You don't just do that to me. Come back here and confront me. So I mean, I've had some odd stuff happen. So
Yeah,
did you come up with any, sorry, Robin, did you come up with any theories about what it was? So it just looked like a giant orb?
Yeah, like a huge one.
But did you come up, what was going through your mind? What did you think was going on?
I try to debunk some things, you know, and I thought, well, could this be a drone, because it's flying a whole lot slower than what the planes fly over at? And there was no sound any of the time that I've ever seen one of these. So, but it's if I tell you what, if somebody can, you can go to Rumble, and I've actually got it's like 26 seconds. No, I can't send it from my phone right now because I'm using it. But if you go to Rumble and you go to the Falcon Monster Hunter, I mean, you can look and you can watch the video, and you can decide for yourself. I mean, the title I gave to it, I wish I knew. You know, I'm not going to tell you for sure, you know, this was a UFO or anything else. I mean, it may be. I don't know.
How long ago was it, Stephen? How long ago?
The one that I recorded was that was in December of 21, and the last one that fired up or flashed or whatever it did, that was last year.
Okay. Over this area, Arkansas, Oklahoma, part of Texas, and then out a little ways from that, there's been an increased activity
Yeah.
now from the Star Nation people. And from what I understand, it's going to increase even more.
Yeah.
So,
You were
Yeah.
laughing. You were kind of had a knowing smile, Arla, when Steve was talking about it. So is that what you think it is? Star Nations
oh yeah,
people
yeah,
connecting?
I do.
Yeah, I
But
did when he showed me the video.
yeah,
I mean, the thing of it is all this stuff bands together anyway. All
oh
because
yeah,
it's all energy based and they follow each other around.
Mm.
So it's almost like it's a progression. Once
yeah,
you're in these active areas, it's just a progression and it's going to happen. And a lot of the stuff that Stephen showed me, you could tell that there is, ET involvement in there. The star people are heavily involved in all of this and have their fingers in it, whether
Yep.
it's good ones or bad ones, because there's both. And he does get a lot of activity over there.
Mhm.
yeah. It's markedly increased, and I'm not going to go into it right now, but there is a group from different star systems that are over this area now doing some things. So
Well, what do you get into? At least tell us what do you? I mean, I know that the Sasquatch message and the Star People's message is very much the same, and including waking us up and stuff like that. But what do you think these particular ones are up to, Arla?
well, there's so much stuff, so much opening of people,
Yeah.
and there's been such a shift in how a lot of people are feeling about a lot of things, and not just the Sasquatch or the Star Nation people or Dogman or any of those other things. It's more so that this area is very important to them in an ancient way. Part of it does have to do with the mountains and things that are through this area, things that are being done. And it's all so positive that they're doing this. I've met one of them that is working with these groups and they are working so hard to help us and to help us connect in and to ride out all of this confusion and frustration that people are feeling now. And it's that same thing as what you feel from the Sasquatch people, that love that is the knowing that passeth any understanding of love that humans have in the human mind. But when the human gets past that mind and connects into the heart, then they began to see that. Several years ago, I worked with a woman who was a walk-in, and that was the beginning of people knowing that so much of this was going on, and that the Sasquatch had played an equal part in this as they have. And, a few years ago, everything started shifting and people started going, well, there's got to be something connecting the Bigfoot with the ETs, because we're seeing them in the same areas. So something's got to be going on. And yeah, it is.
What do you mean when you said you met one? You got to tell us about that. You said you met one.
Oh my gosh.
Well, we got to hear that. I mean, that's
His
kind of like a teaser,
name
right?
is Ishtar.
Okay, and what was the circuit? What happened?
They came and took me on the ship and showed me the ship. And it was interesting because one of the things that they told me was that this ship is particularly for humans to come on to, because the way that it is situated, it felt very comfortable walking into it. Something that humans would, would know and be comfortable in that setting within the ship. And I'm just seeing a lot of that, and it's interesting that when I first came into this many, many, many years ago, if you said anything about ET and Sasquatch, well, I was already crazy when I came into it. Well, you were totally off. But they're
Yeah.
showing themselves
Yeah.
like they did to Stephen in so many ways. And Stephen, you got this big old heart. Oh my
He does.
gosh, it just shines all through you. And they know that. They recognize that. And I expect you're going to be seeing quite a bit more.
I
Yeah,
feel like
I'm
breaking into Shine On You Crazy Diamond now. Remember that song?
Yeah. Stephen has
Shine
this.
on you crazy diamond.
Stephen just has this pure heart. Like he's pure energy.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
pure light.
Yeah.
He's got a pure heart. He's like a beacon. Like
Yep.
they can see it no matter where he's at.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That,
So,
yeah, when I first saw him come on tonight, I was like, oh boy. Oh boy.
So Stephen, what do you think of what the way we're talking about things as far as the Sasquatch being teachers and in a real positive light or whatever? Is that how are they reaching out to you in that and like that? Are you picking up on stuff like that?
Yeah.
Or are you open to it?
Well, I'm open to it. That's something I've always been open to. I mean, if you have a closed mind, you're pretty much you're through learning. So,
There you go.
I try to look at things in that way. It's probably the first person I ever talked to, though. The first time I went to a Bigfoot conference was in Honebby, Oklahoma. And one of the first people that I ran into was a guy named Richard Stewart Taylor. I don't know.
Yes.
He was one of the first people that I met, and he started telling me all this. And I was like, really? Like, okay.
Yeah. You've heard the audio he has, the one where he saw the family. Have you heard that audio he has?
He told me about that.
Yeah, he was with me.
Okay.
When that happened. He's a sweetie too. And yeah, you picked a good one to talk to. That's for sure.
So what was he telling you that a normal person would have thought, like, this guy's off his rocker? What kind of stuff was he telling you that you were open to?
Well, probably the thing that sticks with me the most is what Arla was alluding to there, and how she had if I remember, you correct me whenever I get this wrong. I believe it was your property, and you allowed him to come on, and he actually, you told him to sway with the one.
Yes,
that was
one of
playing.
them had stepped out and was swaying, and he said, "Oh, he's swaying," and I said, "Well, sway with him."
Yeah, and I think one of the little ones was actually going to come up and touch him, or let him touch the little one, and I think Mama told him no.
They were probably 15 feet or so in front of him. And, a lot of people say, oh, they won't let their babies get up close. They did this time. But, did he tell you about the mind speak?
Yes, that was the thing that he told me about, was the mind speak. And I don't remember a whole lot about it, but I know he's never backed away from it in any way. He told me about that. And
yeah, that weekend was not about the Bigfoot. That weekend was a drum making workshop, and he wanted to come, and I told him sure, and he said, well, I don't think I can make a drum, and I said, well, that's okay, just come and hang out with us. Well, I didn't think anything would happen that weekend.
I remember what he told me now about the mind speak. He had a gun on him.
Yes, he did.
And they went to asking him about the gun.
Yes.
And he told them, said, I'm a police officer, and he was
Mhm.
trained with the gun.
Yep.
He didn't bring it for them. I don't remember it word for word everything they told me, but they questioned him about the gun, and it was a mind speak thing that he told me about, and he answered their questions evidently to their satisfaction.
Yeah.
Because
I didn't know he had a gun either, or I would have asked him just leave it in your vehicle.
right.
But we were walking out to the woods, and all of a sudden he stopped. And so I just stopped, and I'm like, okay. Well, they immediately asked him, what are you doing with that gun? And he immediately replied to them through mind speak. And before, he wasn't really sure about the mind speak,
Yeah.
but he fell right into it and explained it to them, why he had it. And then we, walked on. At one point, they told him to step away from me. And he was like, oh, it's dark and they're going to make me step away from her. So, but he was given a great blessing, because he was honest, and they knew that. And I never knew I'd hear that audio until after the fact, and he sent it to me. And we're coming up on that too. That's interesting too, because it's like this next week was when that happened
Really?
Wow.
several years ago.
So what was his purpose of going out there initially?
Well, he had said, I had been out in the woods. We had a fire ceremony going up by the house. As I often do, I'll just get up and walk off into the woods, no matter where I'm at. And I had done that, and I'd walked out there, and they were out there in the woods. And so I came back up to the fire, and he got up and he walked over to me, and he said, it was kind of like a little boy, kind of dropped his head, and he's like, I want to thank you for inviting him, but I didn't get to see him. I didn't get to see a Bigfoot. And, he had his FLIR with him, and he had been looking in the woods, and so I told him, I said, well, come on, let's go to the woods. I don't know if you're going to see anything. I don't know if they're going to be there. I don't know anything. I'm not in charge of this, but I'll walk in the woods with you. And I said, and please put your FLIR down and leave it here. And he said, well, it doesn't make any difference. It just quit working. So they fixed the FLIR before he ever got out. So that's why we went out there. I didn't think anything would happen. I had no idea about what happened. So I didn't have anything to do with it. That was totally between him and them.
Was he invested in the topic beforehand, or just?
Yeah, he had done some research and stuff like that, and he had done some different things, but it's just one of those things that they do that it just happens.
So do you both know him pretty well? Sorry, Beans, I know you want a question there.
I know him very well. I know him very well.
I want to get to Beans with his question, but just basically, so after that amazing experience, and maybe you've talked to him since, Stephen, too, I'm not sure, but how was his interaction, or how was his understanding of
wasn't he on our show?
Thing?
Brian, wasn't he on our show?
I don't think so.
What's
the name? What's his name? Richard. I don't think so.
Hey, I'll hook you up with him.
No,
Richard
I
Stewart
think
Taylor.
it was, or at least I saw him on another show, but I thought he was
Yeah,
on our show.
No,
Rich, what's his last name? Richard what?
Taylor.
Taylor. No.
Yeah.
Stephen, have you got to stay in touch with him?
Stephen, you're muted.
Oh, you're muted.
Maybe he's not even hearing us. He's not moving.
Got his microphone off. Yeah, maybe it's
I can't
whatever.
even see him.
Oh, I think he's frozen. Maybe. No, you're
No,
not.
he's not frozen. He's just not. Well, I don't
Maybe.
know. He might be. Nope, he's moving. There we go.
Have you stayed in
I
touch
can't
with
see him
Mr.
at
Have you
all.
stayed in touch with this guy at all?
With me, no, I haven't. I really haven't. I've talked to him on Facebook or through Messenger, a
Yeah.
little bit. But as far as being able to stay in touch with him, no, I haven't been able to do that. It's
I think it's awesome that you got to talk to him early on because he'll tell you, and he probably told you, he's not afraid of anything anymore. He doesn't have any fear.
Is that? Oh, okay. So that incident or that kind of facilitated that, eh?
Yeah.
So he was obviously very, very moved and changed from that experience, is what I was
Yeah,
getting to.
I think so. I think
Amazing.
so.
What did you have to say, Beans?
The question I was going to get back to Stephen is back to the UFOs. That's how long I've been wanting to ask this question. We've got some topic. I don't want to be Mr. Budinsky, but anyway, that big orb or the big craft light that went over you, then it did something. Whether it powered up, and then you said you almost instantly got a headache. Could you talk about that, because that's one of the symptoms of a contact experience. And I wonder if you have that little badge that says I'm a contactee that you can,
Oh yeah.
here's my driver's license and here's my alien contact card.
There you go.
Or any lost time, maybe. But go ahead, Stephen.
with that, it was just one of those irritating headaches because nothing that I did made it go away, and it lasted for like I say, I woke up with it the next morning. But as far as missing time or anything like that, I don't recall any missing time. And the closest thing that I have to being an abductee, which I've always thought it was a dream. I don't know for sure, but whenever I was a kid, what I started seeing showing up in 21, I'd actually seen that before when I was a kid.
Wow.
Yeah, it's and it was a lot closer then. When I was a kid, I was probably somewhere between 10 and 12 years old. For whatever reason, our whole family, of course, I mean, that would have been back in the 80s. And our whole family, my mom and dad, my sister, and me, we were all outside. And there was this bright light. It just barely above the treetops. And it was moving along at a decent clip. I don't know, probably between 40 miles an hour. It just went by real silent. And we all looked up and we saw it. And the funny thing about that was the next day, I think it was the next day or the day after, they reported a weather balloon that had gone through the area. And it's at that age, my eyes were really good at that age. And I promise you, there was no balloon attached to the light that I saw. Now, I guess the odd thing to go with that was sometime after that, I had a dream that I was taken aboard a craft, and I don't recall seeing in the dream that I had. I don't recall seeing any grays or any aliens of any type, or anything like that. I was just in this circular room. It was I don't know. It's probably like say 15 feet across or something like that, and would be the diameter of it, and it was taller than it was wide, and there was just all kinds of stuff all the way around the room, like magazines, videos, all
Oh my
sorts of stuff. And I don't remember. The next thing I remember from that was actually being I used to squirrel hunt a lot. I started doing that when I was about 11.
Bad boy.
Yeah. And the next thing I remember
Poor little
was
squirrels.
the next thing I remember was seeing this silver craft and looking up at it, and I shot at it twice in my dream, and that's what I always took it as. I had a dream. So
Well, that's fantastic.
The interior of that wasn't a dream.
The big survey, the big worldwide survey on contact experiences, 90% of the people who've had contact with UFOs did it in dream time. It's only very small, 5, 10, 20% of the people actually remember being on a craft and or remember being taken. It's almost always comes to you as a dream time. And it's the same way for Sasquatch for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you definitely, I will stamp your little card. I'm a contactee. I'll give you a little stamp of acknowledgement.
Hey, that's from the world's
Stephen's been
handsomest
taken
man.
multiple times.
That's quite a
Yeah,
compliment to
Robin,
have his
you've
stamp.
been on a few crafts, haven't you?
Yeah, multiple times.
Yeah.
Yeah, multiple times since I was little. I think Stephen's been taken more than once. I think it's happened, more than a few times. And I think that, like that big light like that, I think they're keeping an eye on him. They do. Once they take you the one time, they keep a close eye on you. And I think that's probably what he was experiencing.
Yeah.
It could have been they just dropped him off right just before they picked him up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have a mark in my front yard where a small craft left. And to this day, the grass won't grow back. It drives me nuts. It wasn't there the night before. The next morning it was there, and it's been there ever since. And it's been a couple of years now.
Well, thank God your home's not in Better Homes and Gardens, eh? Or you'd be devastated.
I know. I'd have to turn it into some kind of a flower bed, and the flowers wouldn't grow there either. I can't get grass to grow there. Nothing.
Yeah,
it's weird, Brian, that we have feral cats all over. And the feral cats will come over in the yard because, of course, I feed them. I feed everything. And they will walk all over that yard, but not one will walk on that spot.
That's fun. That's not uncommon, but it's kind of funny, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. Stephen, I've had Sasquatch in my dreams many times because that's one of the ways that they'll connect with you. I've had them in my dreams, but I don't ever remember being on a craft, but I suspect I probably was. I just
that was a see, it's actually very, very rare if I remember a dream. If I remember one, it's something usually comes true. So
oh, you're one of those guys that doesn't remember many dreams. I used to be like that, but lately I've been remembering them.
Pat never remembers a dream, and if he does, it's significant. If he remembers it, it happened or it's going to happen.
Yeah. Mine are just silly. I had a dream. I'm from Canada. Okay. So I'm a hockey fan. Okay. I had a dream where I was playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs and I was skating on the ice with my favorite, with their superstar player, Austin Matthews. Probably don't even know who that is. But anyway, it was cool. But the problem was I couldn't find the dressing room. So I never got to play in the dream. The whole dream was trying to find the dressing room. And it was frustrating. But anyway, I had that thing, Arla, Sue and I told you this, and I think I mentioned it to maybe Robin too, where we had that blood appear in our bed for both of us at the same time, just before we became a couple kind of thing, or just before we. Oh, that's my phone. I'm not going to answer it. Just before we, started realizing about each other and they connected us because they brought us together on purpose. But that blood in the bed thing or whatever, where we could never understand where it was coming from. I think that was something to do with some kind of taking us aboard a ship or some kind of
Oh, I
interaction or
agree.
something. But I don't recall what happened. What do you guys think on that?
Oh, I think absolutely. Absolutely. Pat said we were sitting here tonight and he's like, or last night, he says, you've got bruises all over you. And I said, yeah, I get either missing time or I get some kind of weird dream that are cover dreams, because a lot of times if they're going to take you, they give you cover dreams so you don't remember it. And they're generally dreams that are very scrambled. It'll be people that you haven't heard of or thought of since first grade or kindergarten. And it's all high paced, high movement. And it literally scrambles is what it is. And I'm back to having bruises on me again.
Well, I guess that's the same kind of thing as the blood that we had, eh? Same kind of
And
phenomenon.
yeah, and it's not a negative thing. They've been checking us for such a very, very long time. The same as you would go into your doctor to have a checkup or whatever, to see where you're at. They've been doing that with us humans for a long time. And I think one of the things that happens is sometimes people wake up and then they end up with what they consider a really bad experience with that.
Well, like I said, with Sue and I'm sure it had to be something like that, because what was happening the identical thing. We couldn't figure out why the blood was appearing on our bed at the same exact time. And then shortly after that, the Sasquatch are telling me that we want you guys together. You have work to do for us, and, and all that stuff. So it was obviously some kind of pre-game strategy or whatever.
I remember that time for you and Sue. Very much so.
Yeah. So all that stuff, like the Sasquatch in the dreams, and all that thing. I've got an interesting Sasquatch dream that, and this, kind of proved to me that, they're more than dreams, Stephen, and that they do interact with you with your dreams. I remember, I was considering the fact, and I don't consider it now because I know it. As strange as this seems, I know that the Sasquatch can shapeshift into anything, even people. Okay. So I was mulling over in my head about them shapeshifting into people, and that I had seen them in human form just because of the behaviors and whatever. And there's other stories revolving around that. But anyway, I'm thinking about it, and because I'm actually quite logical. You would never know it, but I'm actually quite logical in a sense, right, Ma?
Mm-hmm.
But also very open. So I'm thinking, Sasquatch changing into people. I don't know. And so I'd already had a few Sasquatch dreams before that, but this particular night when I'm thinking that, I go to sleep and I see a Sasquatch in my dream, and he walks right in front of me, right directly in front of me. And as he's walking by, he shapeshifts into a person.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was my answer, right?
Yep.
That's one thing I like about every relationship is different. One of the things that I treasure about my relationship is there's so many lessons involved. Like I have a thought or whatever, and they give me the answer. It's a real teacher-student relationship that I treasure. And it's
Well,
fun.
our dreams are an easy place to reach us.
Well, and
Yeah.
I think it's safer for them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a much safer place for them. And depending on the individual, what they've told me is sometimes when they're first making that initial contact with people, it's easier for them to deal with it in a dream state. It's not as frightening.
Well,
Right.
yeah, for the person. In the dream time is where we do a lot of our learning. And, sometimes we don't realize that, but it is so much less threatening for the person to have something to happen in the dream time than it would be if it was happening in the awake time. And so it's the easiest mode all the way around, for them to connect with us, for them to teach us, and on so many levels. I've never, I, I might have had one or two Sasquatch dreams in my whole lifetime, and um, they were like probably in the last 5 years, maybe. So um, but yeah, I think that's right too, Robin. It's better all the way around for
It
everybody
is.
concerned.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what they told me was with new people and they're trying to learn about them, it's safer for them physically. And then also it's safer and easier for the ones that are in dream state, our type people, because they're in a relaxed state,
yeah,
they're more open to that, and
yeah,
they're not as fearful. So it works on both ends.
yeah. We're receptive usually in the dream time. If we weren't, we couldn't be taught in the dream time or
Yeah,
taken
I
different
agree.
places.
I
So
agree.
yeah.